We will grab a question from the group here. Looks like Ross Martin is going to start us off. Go ahead, Ross.
Hey, Coach Bateman. I just asked this to Phil Longo. When Coach Brown came back, he said he'd only moved to Hawaii, Bahamas, or Chapel Hill. Yesterday, Hubert Davis, his whole thing, the new basketball coach, said that when he wanted to come back after the NBA career, he wanted to move to Chapel Hill. I was wondering, you've had opportunities to leave Chapel Hill for another job. I was wondering the allure of Chapel Hill, of the Carolina family, of North Carolina's university, in this general area, in the Carolina community that is that you've noticed since you've been here in Chapel Hill and at UNC?
That was a long question, Ross. Yeah, Chapel Hill's been awesome. I was talking to my wife about this last night. So, with everything that's going on in our world the last, year or so, everything happens for a reason, right? So, what you've heard me talk about my son before and his condition, and we've had three UNC students work with him, kind of one-on-one the last year that have been unbelievable. Like I've told Coach Brown this before, like they I don't know if they exist anywhere else, but I'm glad they exist in Chapel Hill. Two girls and a guy that are both seniors at UNC that want to go into education. And so I think that's just an example of the community. And I thought, when Coach Davis talked to our team yesterday, I thought some of the things he said, are a lot of what Coach Brown says. This place is special and this place is different. And I think when we recruit kids, they see it, they sense it, they sense the community. So I mean, yeah, there's a huge reason to want to stay here, right? And the other factor is, right, I don't think our work is done here, and so I think we've got a chance here to be really, really do something special, and I think that's the mindset we have right now with the football program.
Okay, let's go to Greg Barnes.
Good morning, Jay. I'll ask you what I asked Phil. Mac provided us with kind of a general overview of the idea of 3 phases of spring ball. He said you might be willing to get into the specifics of what you're trying to accomplish in those phases. So I'll ask you that.
So which 3 phases do you mean?
Each of them. He said like first 5 days, second 5 days.
Gotcha. I got you. So the first 5 days, right, was just kind of go back to installing kind of, the basic nuts and bolts of the defense. And we've spent time with them, really since the bowl game, working on those things, making, trying to fine tune some things, trying to make some things a little bit easy, not easier, but like more streamlined, I think. And I think now we're in the phase where now we're looking at some different things. We're looking at, hey, do we like this call better than this call against this look? Do we like to package these 2 calls together better? So I think now we're kind of in the new calls, new coverage, new tags phase of the install. And then after about practice, really for us, right about practice 10, at that point it starts to become, okay, now let's put it all together and let's go do it for 4 or 5 practices and then, play the spring game. So, right now we're kind of in the new, experiment, what or do better phase of it. That's kind of where we are right now.
Good deal. Thank you.
Yep.
Jacob Turner, go ahead.
Hey, Jay, I asked Mac about his coaching style earlier on and kind of asked Phil about it as well. So I'm going to ask you too. One thing Mac mentioned when I asked him is he may appear kind of hands off in practice in terms of he's not, stepping in when you guys are doing drills and interrupting and grabbing kids, nothing like that. But he says he's very hands-on behind the scenes in the office with his assistants and holds you to a very high standard. Can you just kind of speak about his coaching style and maybe how it differs from in practice to, what you see in the office on a daily basis?
Yeah. So, during practice, I think he's facilitating the entire practice, right? So he's trying to make sure we stay on time because they got to go to class. He's trying to make sure that we're getting the proper amount of reps. The thing he does, I think that's I've never seen anyone else do it at this level, right? At the level he does it, rather, is his ability to look at the entire roster and say this kid should be playing instead of this kid, and say, gosh, have you thought about trying this kid in that role? And I think that's like and I'm talking about all 120 kids in the program. It's pretty amazing, you know. So that part of it, he spends a lot of time with us on. You know, you guys see him at practice when you see him. He's got his phone out, right? He's not calling people, right? He's taking notes, brother. Like if one of your guys messes up, like if a safety cuts a route loose and I see him go to his phone, I'm like, man, I was hoping he was looking at pass rush during that drill. But you know, he's going to remind you of it. He's going to ask you why. And so, you know, he is very hands-on outside of practice with how the practice is run, you know, what drills we're doing, you know, why we're doing certain drills, you know, can we focus on this kind of instead? So he is very involved with everything that we do as coaches, that our players do. And then I think he kind of lets us go handle our part of the practice. And then we get back together and he tells us what he likes and what he doesn't like.
CL Brown, go ahead.
Hey, Jay, I was curious. I asked Mac about the turnover question. It was something, you know, obviously that he harped on last season, wanting more of. I asked him, and I'll ask you, how do you go about creating an environment conducive for turnovers? It seems like, you know, outside of you know, just being prepared, interception wise anyway, game planning. Like how do you generate fumbles? How do you go about trying to generate more?
Yeah, so I think turnovers come primarily anymore in the pass game. You know, whether it's interceptions, whether it's, you know, strip sacks on the quarterback, or I think, you know, receivers. I think the ball gets exposed more by receivers when they catch it and run with it than running backs. So I think the first thing to do to create turnovers is you have to stop the run. And I think when we were consistent in stopping the run, we caused more turnovers. Like there's no secret sauce, right? So I think it starts with, you know, being better in the run game. And I think when you're better in the run game, and then the pass game becomes something they have to do, and then on defense you're anticipating the pass game, then I think the ability to cause interceptions and cause fumbles increases dramatically. So you know, trust me, we are reminded of it, CL, that we need to cause more turnovers. And I do think our players, I think as, you know, some of our guys have matured and become more veteran players, right? You become more confident in going for the football some than trying to make a tackle at times. And I think that's what we've done. And that, you know, Greg asked the question about the phases. So like right now we're in the phases. Like one thing we talk about right with them right now is when the ball is exposed, right? When can we attack the football? And I think with more veteran guys, right, that's something now we can take a shot at. And so you know, better run defense will generate more opportunities for turnovers, and more opportunities for turnovers will generate more turnovers.
Let's go over to Dina King.
Hey, Coach, when you got here 3 years ago, you had to just basically go with what you had. The defensive recruit that you've brought in, are you getting to that point where you can be comfortable unleashing your total implementation of your defensive philosophy? And are you really close to getting to the championship level type players?
So I think we've been able to recruit some really good players. I think we had some good players when we got here. I just think we have more of them now, especially in the front seven. So I absolutely think our front seven pieces are more, you know, physically aligned with what you need to be to compete at the highest level in college football. And then I think in the secondary, right, we've had to patch some things, but I think now, you know, Dre's done a great job with the corners. I think we've got 5 corners that can play that are all good players. You know, so I think we've made great strides with talent, right? And now they need to, you know, now we need to, as a defense, right, implement that. And I think we are closer. I think we do have more pieces in place to be able to play more parts of the components of the defense than we've ever had. You know, even last year, we really didn't, you know, so I feel like now we're much more prepared to use every page in the playbook. And I think that will help us tremendously going forward.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we got time for 2 more. Andrew Jones, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, in the last couple of weeks, Mac has said some very positive things about some of the second-year guys like Tony Grimes, Jaquarius, and Desmond Evans. Can you speak to your second-year guys, specifically the ones that didn't have a chance to have a spring practice last year, even the ones that were on campus initially, and the changes, the differences that you see in them now, as opposed to last season, since a lot of them have gotten some meaningful experience, their bodies are bigger, but also how they carry themselves and how they are with in meetings and in film room, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, in the secondary, we have two players that had ever had a spring practice, right? Trey Morrison and DeAndre Hollins. So and Storm Duck, I forget he was a freshman when he first got here. So I think in the secondary, we are much more experienced. I think we have much better grasp on like what the pace is going to be, the conflicts we're going to see. Physically, I think Brian Hess has done a great job with all of our guys. But when you look at some of our young DBs, when you look at like Cam Kelly was like 216 yesterday. Jaquarius is like 220. Like when you look at like how big some of our safeties are, like Trey Morrison's like 195 right now. I think when I got here, he was like 172. So like when you look at how big some of those kids have gotten, and they're still fast, they're still quick, they can still cover. Like you're going to be a better athlete, right? So I think physically they've developed great. The thing with defense, and I think especially with the secondary kids, is the more chance we get to show them the conflicts, the more chance they get to have to make decisions fast, the better they're going to be. And so now we've got kids that have played a lot of snaps and have kind of lived through some heartaches, and now they know what it's going to be. And now in spring, the thing, I was riding down the elevator with Jeremy, we were talking about our secondary, like, those kids are so much more experienced and so much more able to handle the adjustments. The entire defense feels more confident because of their confidence, I think.
All right, we'll close up today with Gregory Hall. Go ahead.
Hey, Jay, good to see you. I wanted to ask specifically about Cam Kelly. You've been high on him since he got here, and this is his first spring. So just what do you want him to get out of this spring, and what do you expect him to carry into the fall and perform come time for the season?
Yeah, that's a great question. We meet with all of our guys, right, individually. And like the number one thing I talked to Cam Kelly about is consistency. And there were a couple games last year where he played at an elite high level. And then there were some other games that he frankly didn't. And so, I try to explain to him, like, if one week you play great and the next week you make mistakes that we can't survive, like, it's really hard to play at safety, right? Maybe a nose guard, but at safety, that's going to be a hard thing for us to swallow. And so it's been consistency. I think, tackling, Cam Kelly should be one of our best tacklers. He's big, he's fast, he's smart. I think when he's played really well, he has been that. You look at the Virginia Tech game, we didn't play great on defense, but Cam Kelly was a machine tackling in that game. So, there's games where he's played at a really high level. So, yeah, I think with Cam, it's consistency. I do think having spring practice will help him tremendously. He transferred, he missed all of spring when he was a freshman. He transferred in. We weren't sure if he was going to play until about right before the first game. Then he starts against Clemson and plays really well and tears his ACL. So he's out the whole season, doesn't have a spring practice, and then comes in next year. So like, this is his first chance to really work on his craft. And I think you're seeing a much improved player out there right now.
And are you kind of seeing that mentality? Like, can you notice a different motor since it is the first time that he's able to do that?
Yeah, so I think part of it too is like he's matured as a young man. He understands. Hey, look, and Coach Brown has talked to y'all about this. Like, the competition is real, right? At safety, there are guys that have played over in 2 years have played over 500, 600 snaps that are looking around saying, I better get it right, or I'm not going to play that much going forward. So the competition piece is real, right? And so I think that has helped with consistency also, because if you're not going to be consistent, you're not going to play. So the bench is our best friend. Coach Brown tells us that all the time, right? So if you're not going to improve, right, you're going to get passed up. And I think Cam realizes, like, hey, I've got ability, I've got talent right now. I've got to be more consistent, and if I do that, I'm going to play a lot more football.
All right, well, that comes to a close for the day. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate your time.
No problem. Thanks a lot.